Dirt Trax is sponsored by Can-Am, the ride says it all. Polaris, the world leader in off-road innovation. And by Yamaha, conquer outdoors.
There are definitely a lot of great perks to this job at Dirt Trax TV, but one of my favorite, there's no question, is traveling all over North America attending some of the biggest and most exciting ATV events this industry has to offer. Of all the events I have attended, there's one which is arguably one of the biggest that I haven't, and that's Highlifter Mud Nationals in Jacksonville, Texas. The Mud Nationals are located at Mud Creek ATV Park, which is about 2 hours from the city of Dallas, Texas. It's an easy drive, it's easy to get to, and the event itself is extremely well laid out. And pretty much any company that makes mud-specific side-by-side and ATV parts. If you want it to run in the mud on your ATV, chances are it's there. You may be wondering why it took Dirt Trax TV so long to get to the Mud Nationals, and there's a very good reason. Here at Dirt Trax, we have an extremely strict helmet policy in all of our shoots and all of our trips. Essentially, we believe every rider should wear a helmet whenever they're on their ATV or side-by-side. And at the Mud Nationals, helmets are not required, which makes it difficult for us to film. However, it is not against the law to ride without a helmet in Texas. So we figured we'll bend the rules a little bit because the Mud Nationals is such a huge and awesome event, and we'll just do a disclaimer that says we don't agree with riding without helmets. However, we do agree with attending the Mud Nationals. From the first moment you drive into the Mud Nationals site, you are completely surrounded by the ATV side-by-side industry and everybody who's involved in it. Signs are everywhere. Every company is advertising on fence posts and along fence lines. The people who run the Mud Nationals itself are there at the gate checking for armbands, taking your money to get into the event, giving you brochures, giving you programs and maps. Everybody knows Highlifter for their incredible ATV and side-by-side builds designed primarily to traverse the craziest, gnarliest mud holes in the world. But they also put on the Mud Nationals event, which is, in this industry, the largest mud running event ever. Mud Nationals is supported and presented by a number of large industry partners. This season, Arctic Cat has taken a much more front row seat in helping support Mud Nationals by sponsoring a number of their special events, including a poker run and the Motocross event that happens on the third day. After we decided to attend the Mud Nationals, we thought we would call Arctic Cat and see if maybe they could provide us with a vehicle to use while we were on site, and also get us behind the scenes to check out just what they're doing and why they're doing it while they're here. Mud Nationals really is the perfect event for a company like Arctic Cat to support, because if you look back in history, they really were the company who started the entire factory-equipped mud ATV category with their initial Mud Pro. Arctic Cat has an entire team here competing in the Motocross with everything from stock to fully modified vehicles. One of the biggest events here at the Mud Nationals is called the Motocross. And this is something that was completely foreign to me before I showed up. I'd never even seen this type of event, but I can honestly say after experiencing it, it is pretty awesome. Essentially, a motocross track is a trench dug in the ground, usually in a square shape, about 3 to 4 ATVs wide and then filled with mud and water. ATVs line up on the start line and when the flag drops, run around the track as fast as they can, trying to figure out how to get traction and keep their ATV moving forward faster than the guy beside them.
Never seen anything like this before in my life. I've never seen this kind of racing, and this is crazy.
Now, a motocross-specific ATV is something that looks nothing like any other race ATV I've ever seen. The plastics are chopped completely off, and there's great big gaping holes all over the place. You would think there would be deflectors for the mud, but the reality is these guys want the mud to flow through the plastics as easily as possible. The tires they run look like something off the front of a tractor, Because they are. They're extremely tall and they're very narrow, and the idea is that they can channel through the water and into the mud and grab traction underneath the soft mud when the ground gets harder. These guys ride these bikes in a way they call water wheeling, which is trying to keep the nose of the bike up off of the ground so the rear wheels can get traction. This is something I'd never seen before. It was a bizarre form of racing, and after I'd watched it for, I guess, an hour, I realized there is a lot of technique and a lot of skill involved in getting these bikes around these tracks as fast as possible while keeping yourself from getting crashed by the guy beside you. There's no question motocross is hard on both man and machine. A number of the vehicles that were racing either broke down, ingested water, and some of them just plain didn't finish the race. But it was exciting to watch. I had a great time, and it's something I would definitely like to watch and maybe one day compete in myself. The Mud Nationals event is actually about 5 days long, and we were only on site for 2 of them. So far, we've only discussed the first day that we were there. There was still tons of exciting stuff happening the next day.
Dirt Trax is sponsored by Princess Auto, a unique world of equipment, tools, and more.
The first day we were at the Mud Nationals, which was Friday, the weather wasn't very good. And even though I looked around and thought the place was super packed full of people and vehicles, any of the people who'd been there before said that it really wasn't that busy. Saturday, on the other hand, was a beautiful day, and there was no question that place was overflowing and getting crazy. The big event on Saturday is the UTV Race, and this is something that's relatively new to Mud Nationals. We were there for the practice in the morning and saw the guys ripping around the track, getting a feel for the jumps and getting everything sorted out. After watching them practice, man, I wished I was out there with them. The finals had 2 classes, amateur and professional. And there was actually a lot of people in both classes. In some cases, there was almost 20 guys on the track at the same time. The track itself was wide. There was some awesome jumps, great bermed out corners. It was actually very high speed, and the drivers did a great job of keeping the crowds entertained the entire time. There was even some spectacular crashes, and that really got people excited. The level of competition during this race was at an all-time high. I was actually very surprised at how aggressive the drivers were being, putting a wheel on each other in the corners, pushing each other over the berms. It was exciting to watch, and I bet it was even more exciting to participate in, which is why next year I really want to be participating in this race. There was no lack of excitement during the entire race, and all the spectators hung around until the very last lap. One of the vendors in the food area had a sign that said fried gator. Now, being a Canadian, I've barely even seen a gator, let alone had the opportunity to eat one, but I'm also a super picky eater. However, one of my camera operators, Jake, is not quite as nervous about eating different things as I am.
All right, man. Let's get this done. Okay. Let's see. All right. Hope it doesn't kill you. Tastes like?
Actually really good.
Tastes like alligator?
Yeah, it tastes exactly like alligator.
Amazing.
Regret not trying fried gator? No. Do I respect Jake for trying it? You're darn straight. I didn't know a whole lot about the Mud Nationals before I arrived, but there was one thing I had heard quite a bit about. It was the sand pit. The sand pit is a location that's actually quite a distance away from the main event grounds. You've got to take this iconic road down along a power line that's always lined up with tons of people going in and out of the sand pit itself. You drive along there for maybe a mile and a half, and then just off of the road in the bush is this great big open sand pit with a lake in the middle. And it doesn't take much to imagine what a whole bunch of guys with jacked up side-by-sides and ATVs are going to do in a lake in the middle of a sand pit. To wrap up an awesome week of Highlifter Mud Nationals awesomeness, Polaris sponsors a concert. And Polaris never sponsors a concert and does it small time. It's always to the max.
There's a lot of people congregated for this concert right now. Of course, it's an event sponsored by Polaris, so they're giving away a RZR, as always. But it's pretty awesome to see these people this excited.
The two acts on Saturday night were Blackwater Bride and the big name Colt Ford. These guys put on an awesome show that went on late into the evening. People lined up their side-by-sides and ATVs in the crowd, 50 different rows deep, and they all sat on their roofs, they sat on lawn chairs, they stood around the stage and had a great time. This was one of the most friendly, fun environments I've been in a long time. Every single person here was having fun. They wanted to chat, they were happy to see you, they loved interacting with each other and making new friends. It was a great place to hang out, and it was a really good time. At the end of the day, that's what the Mud Nationals is all about. People getting together, riding their side-by-sides and ATVs, getting a little muddy, getting a little dirty, having some fun, and just enjoying this sport with their friends and making new friends along the way. The Highlifter Mud Nationals is an event that every side-by-side and ATV rider should have on their bucket list, and it's one that I now get to check off. It's also one that I can say with complete confidence, I will be back to experience again.
Dirt Trax is brought to you by MBRP Performance Exhaust. Lightweight performance.
It doesn't really matter what brand of side-by-side that you own, there are very few that you get out of and say, wow, that seat was incredibly comfortable. I know it doesn't seem like a huge deal, but after using a super high quality seat, you really appreciate just how much comfier, more supportive, and how much better you feel after getting out of the vehicle. And seeing as it is where you're strapped to all day, you should enjoy how it feels. Back in 2014, we had a full summer's use of what all of the crew here at Dirt Trax consider to be the comfiest side-by-side we've ever ridden in. No, it wasn't the biggest and the baddest, and actually it flew a little bit under the radar, but we still hold it in very high esteem. The 2014 RZR 800XC was a 55-inch wide cross-country version of the 800 RZR. It had quite a few unique options, but what truly set it apart was the factory-installed aftermarket seats. From the moment you sat your butt down in those, you just felt better. You felt more focused and more in control. I know it doesn't seem that a seat could do all of that, but keep in mind in nearly every form of racing that requires a seat, it's the driver who demands a certain fit and level of support. And that's precisely what the factory-equipped XC gave us, a PRP-built, ultra-supportive seat that made you feel a greater part of the RZR, left you feeling less fatigued at the end of the day, and truly made both driving and riding along more enjoyable. Seats are your first contact point and the area that you interact with the vehicle to the greatest degree, so making sure that your seat is comfy is a really good first upgrade. There's a lot of seat manufacturers out there. Honestly, your choices are truly vast. But my advice to you would be, stick to one of the more well-known brands. It's going to pay off in the end from a comfort, durability, and fitment standpoint. Take this Polaris high-flow mesh seat, for example. It's offered directly from your Polaris dealer, so you can verify fitment before you even pay for it. It's designed by one of the premier side-by-side seat makers, PRP, so you know it's a quality product built for support, durability, and comfort. And it's backed by Polaris with a 1-year warranty. Now these seats will fit in pretty much any RZR, both current and non-current, but I'm choosing to put it in the 2016 Turbo because this motor builds a lot of heat. And these mesh back seats are specifically designed to flow both air and water, keeping you cooler, drier, and comfier. Thanks to a perimeter pad support system, you have great bolstering to keep you squared up in the seat, and with the step-down mesh insert, you fit like a glove into this thing. Installing these seats takes only just a few short minutes, and it uses most of your stock pieces. But once you're done, you're going to realize it didn't just add comfort to your ride, it added a whole lot of style too. Okay, so it's not all about looks, but it doesn't hurt to add some style. In hot desert or southern climates, the mesh design keeps your back from heating up and allows what can become a serious sweat zone to stay dry and actually cool. The other obvious application is in the mud, where these seats deliver unmatched water pass-through. Many factory seats will hold water. It might be in the stitched seams or it might be in a pocket at the back of the seat, but once they're wet, you're wet, and it'll take days to dry them out. In this case, I can literally dump buckets of water on this seat, wash it with the hose, scrub it with the soap, leave it out overnight with dew, and in just a few short minutes of riding, I'm back to dry. Heck, it'll even allow your pants to dry off during your ride if you get soaked. We usually focus on exterior upgrades, but the truth is an interior seat upgrade can add worlds of improvement to your off-road adventures and leave you feeling loose and limber at the end of a long day's ride.
Closed captioning of Dirt Trax is sponsored by Triton Trailer, built for adventure.
We spend a lot of time talking about high-performance side-by-sides these days. So much of the big news coming out of each OE is about side-by-sides, it can lead you to wonder, are there actually any exciting ATVs left? Of course there is, and it's quite possible the most exciting of them all is Polaris's Scrambler 1000. You're probably wondering why. Why do I think this ATV is so exciting, especially when it has solid competition like Can-Am's Renegade 1000 to deal with? In a word, character. I just think the Scrambler has such a unique character. I mean, just look at it. Is it aggressive? Oh yeah. Is it angry? Seems that way. Is it more than a little bit strange? Definitely. But that's just how the Scrambler looks. Its character is so much more than skin deep. Polaris knows how to build a parallel twin. There's no arguing that. They not only continue to top the horsepower war for both side-by-sides and ATVs, but they also own the most refined big bore title with the Scrambler's 1000cc twin. This is a motor that doesn't punish you for living in excess. Sure, squeezing it wide open is an experience that could almost be described as spiritual, but comfortably trail riding a Scrambler all day is not at all unrealistic. Power is smooth down low. I'd even go so far as to say it's a bit tame. Clutching is soft on engagement and, like the power delivery, it's ultra smooth as the clutches shift up. When you hit about half throttle, the power band begins to rise abruptly, and a surge of acceleration hits you hard as the clutches grab tight hold of Kevlar. At full squeeze, the Scrambler feels like it's breathing fire, snorting out of its dual exhaust, angrily squeezing the belt and shredding the meat off the tires until it tops out at just over 80 miles an hour. It's exhilarating, a little bit scary, and quite possibly the most fun you can have with your clothes on. The only downside to the Scrambler's power plant is an entirely superficial one. It just doesn't sound as cool as a big bore V-twin. Sure, the parallel twin has a nice deep cadence to it, but it's hard to argue a great big V-twin thumping away doesn't sound better. More like a European sports car than an American muscle car, the Scrambler 1000 has an equally impressive chassis and suspension package as it does a motor, which is good, because you're going to find yourself navigating terrain at speeds you never thought possible. The chassis is based on the Sportsman architecture. Again, this is good because it's largely recognized as the best riding and handling ATV chassis in the industry. EPS power steering is speed sensitive and tuned perfectly. Overall suspension geometry offers predictable handling with almost no negative feedback to the driver and a ride smooth enough for a luxury ATV, but tunable for anything you could throw at it. A full set of fully adjustable Fox Podium X piggyback shocks are the best units we've ever seen spec'd on a stock ATV. They can be set up soft enough for trail riding or more than stiff enough for big jumps or typical racing conditions. At this point, there really isn't anything chassis and suspension-wise that sets the Scrambler apart from its more sport utility-focused brother, the Sportsman. Aside from calibration, they are essentially the same under the plastic. It's the ergonomics and rider positioning that really start to set the two apart. The Scrambler has no front and only a very small rear rack. Its fenders are chopped way back and offer significantly less mud protection than the Sportsman. The riding position itself is more aggressive thanks to a different seat and fender design that's purpose-built for aggressive riding and getting your cheeks off the seat in the corners. The first Scramblers we tested suffered from one glaring ergonomic issue, or more accurately, the driver suffered because of it. The seat wasn't padded far enough back, and if the driver was really hanging out in the bumps and had their weight way back on the seat, their rear end would contact the rear rack. Hard. The newest versions of the Scrambler have an improved bolster on the rear of the seat that not only helps protect your buns from damage, but also helps hold you forward on the seat under hard acceleration. Other nice features found on the 2016 Scrambler XP are a nicely pointed gauge package, slick aluminum wheels, trick front bumper, awesome tuned dual exhaust, and a cool matte titanium and lime color scheme. The Scrambler 1000 only comes in one configuration and your only option is color. Luckily, it comes spec'd with all the right stuff, so nothing else is really necessary. Its performance, ride, and handling are definitely the most important and impressive of its attributes, but I have to say, its unique character in both looks and feel are what sets it apart from the rest.
Trax Television has been sponsored by Polaris, the world leader in off-road innovation, Can-Am, the ride says it all, and by Arctic Cat. Share our passion.
Like the video you just saw? Do you want to see more? Click the subscribe link and add the Trax channel, and you're going to see a whole lot more great content.